Hey guys, what's up? February 27th, around 11:16. Welcome to another episode. Uh, no, it's been a little bit. Last time I posted was my predictions for Elimination Chamber. I did do a post Elimination Chamber um, episode. I actually recorded two of them. The first one I did not like. The second one I did so late at night. I was like, you know what? I'll post it tomorrow morning, and it just never came to fruition. So I'll briefly talk about it in another episode because I'm going to post a few more after this. Um, but that's why there was nothing on Elimination Chamber. I actually fell asleep on the event because I was just tired that weekend. I forgot what was the last match I saw. I know I saw the Edge match, the mixed tag team. I fell asleep in the middle of the men's elimination chamber match, and when I woke up, I heard Roman Reigns music playing. So that's where I am with that. But I'm going to cover that. I am going to get to that. It won't be its own episode. It'll be mixed in with something else because, as usual in the wrestling world, there is a lot to talk about. One of the hot topics going on right now is the Brock Lesnar, or I should say potential Brock Lesnar versus Omos at WrestleMania. I say potential because if there was a segment on Raw with them, I did miss it tonight. But again, because something with that changed down the road, who knows? Obviously, the news over the weekend about Jeff Hardy and his case, what happened with his DUI, and it pretty much being settled now. There's no jail time for him. I believe he had to pay a fine. I think his license is suspended for 10 years, I believe. And I believe all of his vehicles are still impounded and he won't get them back. I have to double check on that. So that is something to discuss. Obviously, the situation with Randy Orton. Is he coming back in time for WrestleMania? Will we see Randy Orton versus Riddle at WrestleMania? Will we get that match? Will Sami Zayn last minute get plugged into the Roman Reigns Cody Rhodes as WWE is trying desperately to not have a repeat of what happened with Daniel Bryan back at WrestleMania 30? So they're desperately trying not to have that happen. So uh, a lot of things going on. There's rumblings with the future of Kenny Omega when his AEW contract is up. Is he open to coming to WWE? Would WWE use him wisely and those sort of things? And I'm going to cover all of those things. I promise that. But what I just want to cover quickly tonight is what we just saw with Raw going off the air, which is Becky Lynch and Lita winning winning the WWE Women's Tag Team titles, and also we saw the return of Trish Stratus. So while they were in Canada, I don't know if you guys saw, there was talk of Trish supposed to be making an appearance. For whatever reason, she never did. Well, she made it tonight, helping Lita and Becky Lynch win the Women's Tag Team titles. Now, what does this mean? Does this mean there was talk before of Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey, putting the titles on them? Does that mean we'll see Ronda Rousey, Shayna Baszler versus Lita and Becky Lynch? Are we going to see a 6-women tag team match with Trish, Lita, and Becky on one side and Damage Control on the other side? I've said this before. I think Bailey's return to me has been lackluster. I think the whole Damage Control scenario has just been lackluster. And I've said this numerous times before. The women's tag team titles mean nothing. There's nothing that gives you the sense of importance of them. Um, you know, Bailey and Sasha Banks when they had them. And now I look back, with Sasha, that they were trying to give some relevance and some importance, to those titles. Now, why didn't it fully work out? Is it all their fault? Absolutely not. I'm not going to say you don't have a roster deep enough for the tag team titles. The problem is that, and I mentioned this in the Royal Rumble episode, you don't give us enough reason to care about all the women on the roster. We're used to our Oscars. We're used to our Becky Lynch. We're used to our Baileys. We're used to, um, Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss. That's the name I was going blank on. We're used to Alexa Bliss. When you're giving us, Carmella off and on, you're giving us, what's her name, Piven Nevin now, whatever her name is. Once in the blue moon. You're trying to give us Raquel. You were trying to give us Aaliyah. I don't know what the hell happened with her. You're trying to boost up Liv Morgan. You give her the SmackDown title, and then you unceremonially take it off of her, and she has just been lost ever since. At one point, Rhea Ripley was in that category, and now people care about her. And if you had listened to my Royal Rumble episode, I had mentioned that in the men's Royal Rumble, when they do those face to face with certain people, it's like a test to see, okay, could we do something down the line with these guys? Or maybe you're just rehashing something from the past. You hear that crowd do that ooh, ah, and you get that cheer when those guys are face to face. And I believe they did that with Brock and Gunther in the Royal Rumble, I believe. But when you do that with the women, you really don't get much of a reaction. And it's because you're not giving us a reason to care. It's my same criticism with the AEW women's division. Nobody cares. Besides the fact that Britt Baker, now you have Soraya there now. Besides those two, who do you really care about? Do you care to, okay, we're trying to get Ruby Soho, mixed in. And I think she does get a little love. You're trying to work on Jamie Hayter right now. But what happened to Athena? You have all these people, there's this issue with Thunder Rosa now. You're not giving us reasons to care about the women in the women's division. And I feel the same thing with WWE. Unless you're giving us women who are chasing for the title or are champions, such as Charlotte, why do we care? And I think the tag titles really took a nosedive once you gave it to Dakota Kai and Io Shirai. So, okay, now you're putting it on Becky Lynch, and now you're putting it on Lita. Now, my question with that is, how long is that going to last? And the reason I say that is, how long is Lita going to be around? Did Lita sign something that she'll be around for, 3 months with a handful of appearances to defend these titles? I guess it was a better option than putting Trish and Lita together as the tag titles. But what are we doing with this? Is this going to be something that's long term to give the titles some meaning? Was the idea of, okay, let's get a legend and a Hall of Famer, and let's get a future Hall of Famer and put the belts on them to give them some meaning? Is that where we're going with this? And if that's the case, who are their opponents going to be? Will there be a rematch? Most likely. But is the ultimate goal, because the two biggest names that you could do this with, is Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler. That's your, again, I always say, realistic, give me some realism to this. Those two are the ones who will be outside, those two would be the threat outside of a Charlotte teaming with a, Rhea Ripley, with a Charlotte teaming with a Bianca Belair. Something like that's not going to happen. So that's why I'm saying those two are your legitimate threats to it. Now, are we going to get that match at WrestleMania? Are we going to get that match at Money in the Bank? Are we going to get that match at SummerSlam? How long is Lita around? And is the purpose of this not to get, hype for WrestleMania? Is the purpose of this to give these tag titles some meaning and some respect, and to get the fans to care about it? Is that what the goal is with this? And then, you can ask your questions, well, why Lita and not Trish? Or why not Lita and Trish and leave Becky, out of it. Have Becky help the Legends get, we can kind of go back and forth. Maybe Trish didn't want to commit to something long term. Maybe that was discussed. And Trish was like, listen, I'm happy being a mom. I came back from, I believe her last match was with Charlotte Flair, I believe. And that was, what, 3 years ago? I believe that was SummerSlam. I think that was SummerSlam 2019. I believe that match was before the pandemic. It was either 2018 or 2019. I did that. I was happy, I'm happy being a mom. I don't want to come back. I don't want to, maybe I will come back, but I don't want to commit to, 3, 4, 5 months with this run and then, leave. I'd rather come in, make a couple of appearances, maybe get a quick blow off match or something, call it a day. That's possible. And Lita was interested in something more long term. That's absolutely possible. Is it a good thing in my eyes that they took the titles off of those two? Yes. But again, what is our long-term goal with this? If this is just to, take it off of them for a couple of weeks and then have them win it back at WrestleMania, what the hell was the point of this? I'm of the fact because Trish is there. If they did this in Canada, I could say, okay, maybe this was just a little blow off. Trish just came in for the hometown pop, and that's it. I am actually of the belief that they're going to do a 6-woman tag match. That's my guess. Now, what happens after that, I have no clue. Absolutely no clue. But is it great to see Lita back? Absolutely. Lita looks amazing. Lita definitely looks like she can still go. And, and this is not to sound, I'm not trying to sound horrible or anything like that, because I think Trish looks great too, but you can see, how can I put it? You look at Lita's like, she looks the same as she left. You can see where, Trish is, you can see in her face where she has aged, but she looks amazing, and she can fucking go too. I mean, I'm not trying to sound sexist or sound horrible. It's like I'm looking at Lita's like damn, did you fucking? It's like R-Truth. You look at R-Truth for his age, and it's like R-Truth looks exactly the same like when you first saw him when he, debuted. His body looks the same, his face looks the same. It's like, dude, do you age? I mean, look at Edge. Clearly, we can see Edge has aged. And that was even a problem that Vince had with him. That Vince felt like he fucking looks too old. Now, he looks a little slightly younger, and that's everybody when you cut your hair. When he cut his hair, he doesn't look as old as he did when he had the long hair. But Beth Phoenix, to me, doesn't look like she fucking aged either. She looks exactly the same and can still kick ass. But I just think with Trish, something, it's probably not even that Trish is even aged. I think Trish is just in better shape than what she was when she was just wrestling, because she has said she's focused more on it. So I think you can see it in her face, where her facial features are much stronger, and it's just probably not really aging. It's that she just lost weight, toned up, got in much better shape, and that's why I think if you looked at her pictures from before and now, you'll see that difference. Whereas opposed to Lita and like Beth, it's like they just look the same and they didn't do anything. And listen, please don't send me a comment that, oh, well, they're doing, work and plastic. Let's not go down that road. You don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're doing. I think they're all natural, and I think they all look great for their ages. And even that sounds horrible, but that's not what I'm trying to say. I just think they look great. They can definitely, still go. But I just wondering, perhaps Trish didn't want to commit to something long term. Then again, maybe this is a long term, and maybe Trish is going to turn heel, and maybe Trish will cost Lita the title because maybe she's jealous or something like that Becky didn't ask her, or maybe she'll attack Becky and we'll get a Becky versus Trish Stratus down the road. That's a possibility too, and that's something I would be up to see. I would have to see Trish versus Becky, or Bayley's called out both Trish and Lita. Maybe we'll get a Bayley versus Trish at SummerSlam, and maybe we'll get Lita and Bailey at Money in the Bank, maybe. You never know. But I'm hoping that the overarching reason for this is to just give those titles some meaning. That's what I'm hoping for. And I think Lita and Trish, if you put the titles on them, they were great people to do that. Let them hold it for some time. Give them real competition, which is going to be rough, but try to find them real competition to give some meaning to the titles before they drop it to somebody. The combination you have now is great. It could have been Trish. I'm not against them using a Hall of Famer, for this. As long as it's done properly, I have no issue with that. Because if you were going to go that route, I think the next best route was Baszler and Ronda Rousey. But again, you have to give me some realism on who's realistically going to beat those two for the titles. So, what's the plan going to WrestleMania for this? Who knows? There was a report today that a lot of the backstage guys are a little ticked off with Triple H because Triple H wants to keep a smaller card for WrestleMania. Now, I disagree with that because you have 2 nights, and you can get more people on the card because you're on 2 nights, and I think you run the risk, less likely to run the risk of having to cut a match altogether or cut the time on somebody's match. Now, on the upside of having a smaller card, the people who do have matches, there'll be longer matches, better quality, a better story to tell in the ring. There's some frustration that, which is not, you know, out of the ordinary that you hear around this time, that people are upset that you have, legends come in to take spots and you have celebrities. And yes and no, I agree and I understand the frustration of it. And, let's say Trish and Lita are on WrestleMania. Are you doing that because you didn't have The Rock and you didn't have Stone Cold? Are you doing that because, you don't have Randy Orton and maybe you don't have Riddle and you're trying to fill the spots? Maybe that was the plan altogether. And I get that frustration of it because are they leaning on the legends too much again? Are we dipping back into the past too much? You tried to get The Rock, you tried to get Stone Cold. They didn't want to do it for whatever reason. You're going to have John Cena. You have Logan Paul. I'll even say Brock Lesnar to some degree is from the past. You have Brock Lesnar, and now you could potentially throwing in Lita and Trish Stratus potentially. Some cases can be made. And a little piece of me is starting to feel WrestleMania might be a little lackluster. And I say that because I see the lineup of what some of the potential matches could be. I think Seth versus Logan Paul would be a great match. I think Cody versus Roman would be a great match, but I think the prospect of people wanting Sammy to be inserted is sort of sucking the life out of it a little bit. And I just think that there's going to be disappointment because Sammy is in the tag match, even though it hasn't been officially announced, but we know that's where they're going with it, that he's in the tag match and he's not in the championship match. And I just sort of feel like that's going to be a disappointment because the fans, that's what they want. And WWE does not want them shitting on that match. Remember, was it WrestleMania 33? Okay, 31, that's when Seth cashed in. 32, that's when they were in Dallas. And I think that's when everybody was hurt. Because that year, they were just decimated. Everybody was hurt. I think it was WrestleMania 33 because I believe that was that in New Orleans as well? I don't think it was in New Orleans, but that's the one I believe when Roman and Undertaker. No, I think that was 34. Roman and Brock faced each other, and the crowd just shit all over it. I mean, that's when Roman was bleeding like crazy because I believe Brock busted him open, the hard way like he did Randy at SummerSlam. And I just remember just the boos. That's the clip where Brock walks into the back and throws the belt at Vince, and Vince's like, "Hey, asshole!" That's when that whole thing happened. And they don't want that. They don't want these guys shitting on Cody and Roman because they want Sammy and Roman and not Cody. So I know they're trying to do everything they can to deter that, but we have to see how they. As you notice, Sammy wasn't on Raw this time, so the question is, how are they going to be able to pull this off, and will they be able to pull off where it's not hijacked? And I just feel that whole thing is just sucking a little bit of life out of it. I'm looking forward to seeing Rhea versus Charlotte because it's a different Rhea this time around than it was 3 years ago. The Asuka versus Bianca Belair, yes, it's a decent match. Is it one that should, because there's discussed, who's going to close night one because the championship match is going to be night two. Which women's match should do it? I think it should be Charlotte versus Rhea. Not because I'm huge on Rhea, it's just that story is much more compelling, and the history behind it is much better than the story, which there really isn't one, of Bianca and Asuka, and that's why I think they're the ones that should close night one. So I don't think WWE is worried about night one. I think it's night two that they're worried about. And that's the other thing. This tag match that eventually is going to happen, do you put that on night two with Roman and have everybody lose the same night, or have one retain, one lose, or do you split them? And that's the other thing. Do you have the Usos lose their titles and Roman keep his? Does Roman lose his and the Usos keep theirs? Does everybody win, or does everybody lose? So, but I'll get more into that into a future episode. I just wanted to talk about the women's tag titles with Lita and Becky winning. So let's just hope that this is going to add some value to those titles, because those titles have had no values for a long freaking time. And I think it's a little disappointing that they broke up was it Hot Topic? Toxic Attraction, Jesus. Toxic Attraction, I mean, it wasn't the same after Mandy Rose left, but I really think if they kept those girls together, Becky and Lita versus them, would have been fire. That would have been awesome, but that's not what they did. But hope you enjoyed this quick one. I will be back tomorrow, just to jump into a little bit of Jeff Hardy. What does his future hold? Will we see Jeff Hardy in the ring again? Does Jeff want to come back? Does AEW want him back? Would WWE take him back? What's going on with Jeff? I believe Jeff was 45. What's his future? Because time is running out for him, and I would think he wants to finish his career on a better note. But we'll get more into that tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed this podcast. Hope you enjoyed Raw tonight. Hopefully you're excited for the road to WrestleMania. It's starting to be a little but, there's still more time. Let's see where things go. Again, leave your likes, leave your comments, subscribe. Talk to you later.